It's time for This Week in Science and Education, the internet show that talks about all things health, research, and science-related, new discoveries, new cures. How do we take this information and how do we make it relevant for the teachers and students in today's classroom? We're going to find out next. Stay tuned for This Week in Science and Education. This Week in Science and Education is brought to you by Sheridan Institute of Technology and Advanced Learning. At Sheridan, students shine brighter. Visit their website at SheridanShineBrighter.com.
Hey everybody, this is a special episode of This Week in Science and Education. This is your host, as normal, Kevin Cougler. I'm here at the National Science Fair at Seneca College here in Toronto. What a fascinating day it's going to be. We're going to walk the exhibit floor and see all sorts of projects from all across Canada. I can't wait to get started. There's blood spatter, there's hockey helmets, there's all sorts of things that you can imagine. Let's get started right now. This Week in Science and Education, coming up next. So I'm here with Michaela. Michaela is a student here from Toronto. Michaela, what grade are you in?
Grade 9.
Oh, super. And what's the school that you're attending?
Haverford College.
And that's in the York region of Toronto. Well, Michaela, you did quite well here at the competition. How did you place?
I got best in intermediate fair.
Well done. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Let's hear a little bit about the project that landed you that distinction.
Okay. So algae is being grown for biofuel currently. However, one of the main problems is that algae don't grow as efficiently where conditions aren't as stable. So I zeroed in on that problem and tried to come up with a solution to that. I used the knowledge of biodiversity, being that biodiversity is proven to be essential to the stability of all natural ecosystems. So I tested to see if this knowledge would hold true to man-made ecosystems, which is how bioreactors work for algae biofuel. So I tested to see whether increased biodiversity in an algal bioreactor would increase the stability of the system as a whole when faced with a sudden cold shock.
Michaela, what was your motivation for thinking about this project in the first place?
My motivation was that I believe that we're going to need to come up with some kind of renewable fuel source, and biofuel being a great one. And algae is definitely a top contender for biofuel. However, there are some problems with it currently, lack of stability being a big one. And we need to be able to make algae biofuel economically viable and make it efficient in all areas, and this is the way to help contribute to that.
Well, that's wonderful. Thanks, Michaela, very much for being on the show. Congratulations again on your work. Well done.
Thank you.
So I'm here with Madeline at the National Science Fair. Madeline is from Peterborough. What grade are you in, Madeline?
I'm in grade 9.
Super. And what school are you here representing today?
Kenner Collegiate.
And your project is on sunscreen. And I guess the essence of the project is it good for us or is it bad for us? Tell us a little bit about the project.
Sure. So what I tested was different types of sunscreens to see if they contain lead. And out of the ones I tested, 75% contained lead.
75% seems like a very high number. Should we be concerned about the levels of lead that are found in our sunscreen products?
Definitely, because since sunscreen is a daily use product, you apply it more than once a day, and the lead will accumulate in your body, and lead is known to cause severe health effects as well. And the more lead that's in your body, the worse health effects the lead will cause.
So Madeline, what would some of the alternatives be that we could use to these sunscreen products that have lead?
Well, what I recommend is trying to cover up the best you can without using sunscreen. So, for example, using hats and sunglasses and long sleeve clothing instead of tank tops. And try to avoid using the sunscreens that contain lead.
That sounds great. Well, I certainly congratulate you. This is an important piece of information that needs to go out to the general public because we all use sunscreen. There's somebody special here today as well that's joined you on the trip. I believe your mother is here. Maybe she'd be so kind as to come on camera for a second.
Sure.
All right, so here is Madeline's mom. What is your name?
I'm Mary.
Speak into the mic.
I'm Mary.
Hi, Mary. Thanks for coming on. Certainly a fascinating project. You must be very proud of your daughter.
Yes, I'm very proud of Madeline. She's done a lot of hard work here and has some very good information for the population.
Super. Now, did you give her a hand at all in the project, or is this entirely Madeline driven?
Well, Madeline's a self-starter, and it's pretty much Madeline driven, although we did get a lot of sunscreens and supported her as much as we could that way. So.
Wonderful. Well, thank you very much, both of you, for coming on the show today, and congratulations again.
Hey.
Now, Madeline, you're very modest. You haven't brought it up, but I've noticed you have something around your neck that maybe wasn't there a couple days ago.
Yeah, yesterday at the awards ceremony, I received a silver medal. So out of the intermediate category, I came in second overall.
How many people would be competing in the intermediate category, do you know?
Probably over 120 if I had to guess. I don't know, but it's out of all the challenges here.
Congratulations, that's certainly something to be proud of. Well done.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, so I'm here with Richard. Richard is a grade 9 student from Winnipeg, Manitoba. Richard, what school are you from?
I'm from Grant Park High School.
Whereabouts in Manitoba is that located?
It's in the River Heights area, roughly south central.
Okay, great. And you've got an interesting project here. Tell us a little bit about it.
Thanks. Well, my project, I'm testing to see how well solar tracking works in an area with trees, because solar tracking is normally used in the middle of the desert or in open fields where there's lots of open sky. So I'm testing to see how well it works in an area with trees, to see if the benefits are good enough for it to be a practical application.
And of course, the issue, the basic issue, I guess, with trees is that the trees are blocking the sunlight, right? So what did you find? What were your conclusions with that project?
That's one of the issues. So trees will block the sunlight, but also they make it difficult or more difficult to track the sun, because when you're using sensors to determine where the sun is, if a branch goes in front of the sensor or something like that, you can be knocked off course, and the system does need to be able to adapt and track back to the sun.
Okay, and did you come to any conclusions on how we can fix that problem?
Well, I tested my solar tracker, and it actually did a really great job with the trees. There were a few points where it got off course, and the tracked solar panel gave me less current than the stationary solar panel, but for the most part, I saw increases across the board.
Super. Well, thanks, Richard, for sharing that with us today. I appreciate your time, and congratulations on a wonderful idea and a wonderful project.
Thank you.
So I'm here with Brent. Brent is a grade 9 student at Windsor. What high school are you from, Brent?
Vincent, Mass.
Okay, is that right in the town of Windsor?
Yes, downtown.
Super. Well, tell us a little bit about your project.
I did my project on wind amplification. Wind amplification is the process of building an apparatus that will increase the wind velocity, therefore increase the power that the turbines are able to generate. So for my experiment, I just did that. I built apparatuses, and then I tested the difference of the power that the turbines were able to generate, and I found that it averaged out to be about a 1.7 increase.
How did you do your research on the project? I think we drove down to Windsor recently. We're at Science Rendezvous. We noticed a few wind turbines along the highway on the 401. Did you involve those at all?
I used some of those in schematics. I didn't actually was testing conventional wind turbines.
And what conclusions did you draw from your project?
I'm able to draw that wind amplification is possible, and as I said, it averaged out to be a 1.7 times increase, and that I hope to continue with this project and do further research on it and fine-tune it more.
And Brent, I'm wondering what the practical application will be. Can we hope to see, wind energy readily available, do you think, in the next 20, 30, 50 years in our society?
I believe so, and like for my particular project, because of the stackability of the models, I see them being put into urban areas and on top of buildings, and where conventional wind turbines just aren't able to go.
Super. And how's your time been here at the Canada-wide Science Fair?
Oh, it's been great. I really, really like it, and this is my second Canada-wide, and both have been outstanding. So, and I hope to continue being a part of the Canada-wide.
Well, we hope you are as well. It's young people like you that give us hope for the future. Thanks very much for taking the time to talk with us today.
Thank you.
So I'm here with Rebecca. Rebecca is a grade 8 student from Brockville. Rebecca, what is your school name?
Lynn Public School.
And tell us a little bit about your project here.
So I did my project on blood spatter analysis. It's what crime scene investigators use in crime scene investigation to calculate the origin of blood spatter. So possible to determine the precise origin of the neoplastic blood spatter by analyzing the blood drops.
Okay, and how did you conduct your research for that?
So when blood is sprayed at an angle, it spreads out, and you can use string at the end of the splatter, and where all the strings come together is where it came from. When you measure the blood drops, you use the sine law and the tangent function to find the angle of impact and the height, and it leads you to the point of origin.
Super, and what were the conclusions that you drew from your project?
It was possible to find the precise origin, but it's not as precise as I thought it would be. That's why investigators now have programs to do it, so it's a lot more accurate.
Now, we've all grown up, watching CSI and CSI Miami and all those types of shows. I'm sure everybody asks you this question, but we see them identifying the point of origin for blood spatter on those programs all the time. Is that really accurate, do you think?
Yeah, pretty much. The programs can identify the origin within a 1 to 2 centimeter differential.
That's pretty good. Well, Rebecca, thank you very much for taking the time to speak with us today. We appreciate it. So I'm here with Emma. Emma is a grade 7 student from British Columbia. Emma, what school are you from?
Cougler Middle School.
Okay, and whereabouts is that in British Columbia?
Nelson.
Tell us a little bit about what your project is here. I noticed that you have a lot of Tim Hortons cups and different things. What's the project?
So my project was about how fast the average or normal coffee cups will biodegrade in the ground. It kind of mimics like what happens in a landfill. And what I really actually just wanted to do, my original goal was just to see what would happen. Like if it really would biodegrade, if there would be any results, or if it would just stay the same.
And what did you find from your experiment?
So the biodegradable cups are really the best way to go because there's really nothing left by the time that they're in the ground for almost 2 years. So as you see here, there really wasn't a lot left. What makes that happen is because the paper biodegrades, but then the plastic liner on the inside is polylactic acid, and that is a plant-based liner. So compared to another cup, like a Starbucks cup, this is a polyethylene liner that's left over, and that does not biodegrade, which is what makes it so much worse than an average biodegradable cup. The plastic cups are really bad too because there wasn't anything that actually biodegraded. They just looked like exactly the same. So after 2 years, that was all that happened to the actual cup. So it's definitely a really big deal about which cup you use.
So Emma, did you actually start this project 2 years ago and bury some cups in the ground in order to conduct the research for today's show?
Yeah, I did. It was a lot of interesting, different kind of things to look at.
No, that's wonderful. And of course, one of the biggest problems that we have in our society is throwing things away in the landfill too easily. And so from what you found, I guess, with your experiments is that the major corporations, Tim Hortons, Starbucks, that's primarily where everybody goes to buy coffee. What can we do to convince them that they need to change their cups to help preserve our landfills?
Well, there's a lot of different things that you can do, but I think one thing to do would be to show them everything that's happened in this experiment, like the biodegradable cup, and then show them what happened to their cup. And the biodegradable cups cost quite a bit more, but if everybody started to buy them, the price would go down. So I think that would be a way to get them to at least think about it.
And Emma, if I'm an executive from Tim Hortons or Starbucks watching the podcast today, what's your message for them?
Well, you've seen what happens to your cups, so why wouldn't you want to help the environment more to make them biodegradable, to just go like that extra mile, just to make that effort to make them biodegradable and better for your environment, where you're living.
Super. Thanks, Emma. Well said. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Super. Super. So I'm here with Daniel. Daniel's a grade 8 student from the Ottawa region. Daniel, what school are you from?
St. Francis Xavier.
Tell us a little bit about your project. I know I saw you in Ottawa, but this is one of the more popular projects, and you're actually a winner here as well. Let's hold up the medal and we'll see. Excellent. Congratulations. What's your project all about?
So I got my second concussion in October, and there were some pretty bad side effects like nausea, blurred vision, dizziness, and like really bad headaches. So I thought with all the concussions I've seen in sports now and the concussions that I've experienced, that helmets could be like significantly improved. So I tested quite a few helmets, including the Easton S19, the M11, the Bauer 9500, the Bauer 4500, and the Bauer 550, including my 2 prototype helmets. But I wasn't able to bring all of them here. So the ones that I have is my prototype from the regional science fair, the M11, and my new prototype helmet. So the key features about my new prototype helmet is it's big and bulky. So basically the reason for that is basically there's no edges on it. So when a player gets hit, it'll minimize the torsion in the skull. And basically the reason for that is there's 2 types of concussions. There's rotational and there's linear. So a rotational concussion is a little more complex and most people don't know what it is. Basically it's when there's inertia in your brain, so your brain wants to stay still while your skull spins around it. And since they're not perfectly round, your skull will rub against your brain, resulting in rotational concussion. So the reason for the round shape is so that the force will go to the center and the checker will almost roll off the helmet. And this is a carbon fiber shell that I made a while ago. And basically it's a lot stiffer than most helmets. As you can see, the M11, it's really flexible and bends a lot. So the next step basically was some companies that I found make false statements about the products, about they've got like their helmet's this good or this G-force rating or whatever. So I thought I've got to have a way where I can get the results and get them, make sure all my tests are the same, like the same variables, and done basically for the way that I wanted it, for the heights and the temperature and everything. So I made a drop mechanism that I put together using machines that were basically like borrowed from Delta Corporation, and they were one of my sponsors, including Combat Sports, which donated the carbon fiber, Inner World Electronics for the PC oscilloscope, Foam International for all the foams I tested. So I tested 1 inch, 1.5 inch, and 2 inches of 3 pounds per cubic foot, 4 pounds per cubic foot, and 5 pounds per cubic foot memory foam, which is an open cell foam, along with a different type of closed cell foam. And the best combination that I got in my helmet was 5 pounds per cubic foot memory foam, along with closed cell foam strips to wipe the sweat away, and basically to lift the head off the foam so it's a cooler temperature inside the helmet. Mylar strips, which will deflect body heat away from the foam, again to cool it. And also, I didn't want to ruin the shoulder for the Nationals, but if I had air vents going through the shell, through the foams, and out the back, that would also significantly improve the temperature reduction, basically. And what I realized with the temperature reduction was, when I did a drop test from the full height, so 102 centimeter drop, my helmet, basically the force exerted on the head was 78 Gs with 42 millimeters of compression. But when it was chilled down to 0 degrees Celsius, it actually was 30 Gs with 39 millimeters of compression from the same height, same velocity. So basically, if you see right here, this is more of a box than a peak compared to most waveforms, and that has only been seen in single impact helmets, like bike helmets, ski helmets, and snowboard helmets, basically the ones that you've got to replace after a while, after one concussion. But for multi-impact helmets, they're always peaks and things, so that's a main observation that I made. So then when I saw those amazing results, I thought maybe if you chilled every helmet down to 0 degrees or had proper ventilation, they could be better. But the M11 from 102 centimeter drop, they actually received 150 Gs, but when it was chilled down to 0 degrees Celsius, it actually got slightly worse to 150 Gs.
Michaela, it seems like you're an expert at giving interviews. I was waiting to jump in and give you a question, but I think you've answered them all in that wonderful description of your project. Can we get a demonstration?
Sure. cable's really loud. I can't do a full height job.
I also
but I can
am
hang out this height.
I'm in the Victoria choir. With your own question, figure out how you're going to test it. Go out and
So it's a large peak because it almost reaches final compression there. And basically this is the G-force and this will be the compression here. With this large peak, that's just the screw interfering with the infrared LED sensor. That won't affect my readings. So basically, it's 211 millimeters. So I'm using a G-force sensor that's it's 3.3 millivolts per G. So 211 millivolts would be equal to 64 Gs. And for the compression, the helmet compress by 16 millimeters, while its final compression is 23 millimeters. And if somebody was hit from if it reached its final compression while the head is still in motion, basically the helmet becomes functionless, like it becomes useless, because now it's basically head on ice impact because the helmet reaches its final compression. And most production helmets, the newer ones today, will reach its final compression from just over 70 centimeter drop, and nobody in the NHL is that tall. So really, that's
Even Susanna Chera?
that's not ideal for a helmet. Same drop. So it's more of a curve because it's more compression over a longer period of time. And as you see, since the base is a lot wider, the peak will lower also. And so basically the G-force drops from 64 Gs down to only 29, and the compression there's a lot more compression basically in this helmet as well.
That's super. Well, Daniel, I really appreciate you spending the time with us to talk about your project. You did an excellent job in describing it. Let's see that medal again one more time. And what was it for? What was the prize?
For gold medal in junior challenge. Basically, it was a gold in excellence award, basically.
Absolutely deserving. Thanks again, Daniel.
Thanks a lot.
Appreciate it.
So how much force did Ray generate? Our motion capture technology gives us an inside look. The key equation here is force equals mass times acceleration. Ray weighs 15 times more than the battering ram, and by lowering his center of gravity 1 foot and accelerating up to 6 Gs, amazingly, Ray generates over 1,000 pounds of force. That's 200 more pounds of bone-crushing force than the battering ram. And the only reason Ray doesn't break bones every time he hits someone is because shoulder pads decrease the force by 50%. And the ribcage is made to flex up to 2.5 inches. But even with these factors, when you get hit by a Ray Lewis bull rush, it'll still feel like you're getting trampled by a real raging bull.
So here's Lucas. Lucas is going to talk to us about the physics behind a tackle. Lucas is from Saskatchewan. What grade are you in, Lucas?
I'm in grade 9.
Super. And what's the name of your high school in Saskatchewan?
Carleton Comprehensive High School.
All right. Well, I'm sure they're very proud of you being here today. Explain to us what the physics are behind a tackle in football.
Well, football, lots of people say it's a contact sport, but it's actually more of a collision sport. I say this because momentum is actually a very big part of football. The laws of momentum state that when two objects of the same weight are moving at the same speed and they hit each other, they will stop. But if one of those objects is either going faster or has more weight, it will have more momentum and will push the other object back. This is a big part of football due to the different body sizes of people. This is why a lot of times lowering your center of gravity will help with this. What happens when you lower your center of gravity? Your weight is more centered to the ground and lower. This in turn will actually create torque on your opponent and take his feet off the ground and will actually give you in control of the hit.
And Lucas, what gave you the idea to do this as a science project?
Well, I'm a big football fan, and I love playing football, and I thought I would do this, and it would give me a greater understanding of football and how to play.
And do you think that it will make you a better player?
Oh, for sure. Now I understand the importance of every step.
What was the name of that high school again? I think we should look for them in the football finals out in Saskatchewan this year.
Carleton Comprehensive High School. Go Crusaders, go.
Thanks, Lucas. And now the big question on everybody's mind, are we going to have an NFL season this year?
I hope so.
Thanks, Lucas.
Nice meeting you.
Nice to meet you.